Welcome and welcome back to my channel, Wise Words from a Grown Man. If you understand, you understand. If you don't, then man, deuces, two times. What's up, y'all? Thank y'all for joining me today. I don't want to take too much of your time. I'm gonna jump right into these questions because we got a guest today. I'm gonna let y'all see my guest. If you can see him on the side, I'm gonna let him introduce himself. Go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
What up? It's Craig Houston, aka Bucket. Just waiting on my nephew to go ahead and do his thing.
For
But
sure, for
support,
sure.
support the podcast. Support
That's
the
what's up.
podcast. Yeah.
That's what's up. We're gonna jump right in these questions, man. Get right into the meat of it. First question is, what was your early upbringing like? Jump into it.
Right. Well, early upbringing, coming from a large family. My mom had 7 boys, 1 girl, so it wasn't like really easy, but it wasn't difficult because at like back in the days you can really tell because love went along a long way, and we was
Right.
always tight knit with family, not necessarily just the family inside the house. You'd have family members that was moving in and staying and stuff like that, so we were just tight knit all together. So it's like when you live in and you barely got anything, you can't tell when there's love involved
Right.
because it
Right.
seems like you got everything you need, but you know, it wasn't ideal. Let's just put it that way. It was poverty, but
Mm.
it didn't hurt as much because the ideals we was raised back in growing up in the late 70s and 80s. That's what we depended on. We depended on family in the village, So it was it
For
was
sure.
it was cool.
For sure. For sure. They said a family that stays together, prays together, and all of that. But the thing is, we forget about that family dynamic nowadays. If you really dig what I'm trying to say, like um it, it's hard to even call people family no more because they don't treat you like family. So I'm gonna jump on in this second question. Did you have both parents when you was growing up?
No, I didn't. Now,
Okay.
by the time like when I was 2, you know, Pops Thomas, he was out. He took off. Now all my other brothers and my sister, they all older than me, so they can remember a time when Thomas was in the house. I don't.
Okay.
So we just basically, it was just my mom, and then it's like my grandma. That was kind of like the fatherly figure.
Okay.
Well, I'm just saying,
Linchpin.
I'm not saying fatherly figure like she was there as a father. It's just that she was there every day in the household. So
Right.
my mother and my grandmother, and basically that's what it was. And yeah, my dad came around, but far as in the household, no. The only male influence I had outside of really my oldest brother was like the one we looked to. All of us looked to. But as
Okay.
far as a father, no, Thomas wasn't there.
How old was the oldest brother at this time?
Now, at that time, when I was 2, shoot, I mean, I really don't even remember being 2. But let's just put it this way: he had to be either, yeah, he was 13.
Okay. Okay.
He was 13.
And usually the dynamics of family, I don't like to play the race card or anything like that, but usually in the black urban homes or the lower income homes of Caucasian or black families, usually that's how the dynamic usually is in a situation like that because they have an older sibling that usually takes care of the rest of the siblings while the parents working or whatever they choose to be doing. It's just that's where the family dynamic comes strong in those times and those families. Like it's sometimes you don't have nobody and you just a
Yeah,
dolo. So
yeah.
granted you had people to watch over you being so young, you know what I'm
Back
saying?
back in those days, it was nothing to see. Just that's the way like Generation X kids. we're used to being out there in the streets, and we know the rules and all that, but we was out there in the streets. But we know
Right.
our parents' rules. They gave us that rope because at that time, that's when the household was taking on two jobs, and you a latchkey kid, and you know how to survive. So that's the way it goes. But when I say my brother was he was just the male figure who took care of
Mhm.
us, was our older sister. Our
Right.
older sister was the mom figure. So she's older than all of us. She's the one responsible for cooking. Even when I graduated Head Start, she was the one that took me to graduation, got me ready, made sure I was there. My oldest sister did everything because my mom was either working or gone. So
Right.
my
Right.
older sister, she was the one really responsible. But when we looking like at a male figure, it was my older brother.
Okay.
But far as the
And
taking care and doing everything, oh, that was on Betty.
well, that segues right into my next question, which is, um, what was the first time that you was introduced to the streets or to drugs in general?
Okay, let's just say it like this. All of my brothers, they were in some sort of trouble or in the streets. Back then, you just doing your little small things, maybe breaking in the car, taking a stereo,
Hmm.
probably just, stealing from stores and all that. They was into all that.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
I never was into any of that. Never at all, coming up and all that, because I was smart enough to like actually see what they were doing and what was going on with them. So I'm like, I don't want to be a part of that. And I used to look at the heartbreak my mom was going through, and I'm like, she'll go
Mm.
crazy if I get involved in something like that. But my introduction to the streets was actually like about 2 weeks after I graduated high school.
Whoa. Okay. That's 2 weeks after. Okay, you done got
Yeah.
the cap and gown. Now it's time to get down. You did.
Well, in a way, it wasn't so much about age. It was just at that time I'm an adult and I got a job, but it just seems like a whole bunch of unfortunate events happened. My
Word.
car broke down. My job is in Eastgate. I live on the east side of Lima, but Eastgate is a long walk. I'm walking back and forth to work. It seemed like everything is just going wrong. My car payment's piling up because I ain't making a whole lot of money at Taco Bell.
Right. Right. Right.
So, I'm just in the neighborhood in the snake pit, and then that's when I was introduced. It's like a homeboy's like, hey man, I'm finna go to the 21, man. Just hold this till I get back. When he got back,
Well, well,
he
let
paid.
me stop you right there because that's you just slid into my next question,
Okay,
but I did what you're saying
right.
because, like I said, it's a segue into why. That's my next question. Why did you decide to get into the lifestyle? Because you gave a little bit of meat on it,
Yeah.
and go ahead and finish the rest of it because that's my
And
next question. Why did you even decide to get into the lifestyle?
it goes back to, like I was saying, the stuff that my brother, I'm just not big on just, stealing.
Right, right, right,
I'm not big on stealing. I'm not big on robbing nobody. I don't play the violence role. That ain't me. That'd
right.
be fake, So
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
when I was going through all those problems, after graduation, and my homeboy asked me to hold that, and then people just start coming up to me. And it was easy.
Mm.
It's like it's a salesman thing, They want it, I got it, there it is. And so when he came back and all his product was gone, he was like, man, I gotta hook you up with dude, man, because this ain't never happened. So he hooked me up with dude, and then it took off. And I'm like, man, well, this right here ain't bad as far as making money. I'm not robbing nobody, I'm not threatening nobody, I'm not stealing from nobody. I'm like, they want it, I got okay, I can do this.
Right.
And it was kind of like easy to me because I had no habits. you know,
Okay.
I had no
Okay.
habits. I don't smoke. I don't get high. I don't drink. All I used to do was just hang around. And it was like really easy for me to like take off with it. So
Right.
that's how I got introduced. I really got introduced from a few unfortunate events.
Okay. So, I, in that same mind frame, I think of myself. Like, I was raised in a Christian home. My parents took care of me. I had both parents in the home, and I looked up to, we often, I say this again, it's not every black person, every white person that has low income or down on their luck go this way, but this is just what happened.
Right.
So when I used to come to the city and I seen all these things happening, and I'm like, that's not the lifestyle that I live. That's not my mind frame. But I like what I saw. And then I just decided to do some things that was not, pertinent to my lifestyle. I never got in trouble or nothing like that, but I can see where, like you said, like I'm good at something without even trying to be good at it. I got rid of everything without having no issues. So I can dig what you're saying on that part. So I'm gonna ask you was the lifestyle like you thought?
Well, it was more than like what I thought.
Okay.
From the outside looking in, you see cars, you see money. Nobody's worried about nothing. Your family taken care of. That's what you're looking at. Yeah, I can get this money, but it's a lot. It's a lot to come with that.
Hmm.
Now, like back when I started, but late '80s, the police, they used to just take it, and they just take it, and it was like nothing, because it hadn't, that era hadn't really taken off. You know,
And let's dive into that right there. Since we on that, let's dive to that a little bit. Because when that happened, people don't know. You see what you see on TV now, and you see the shows and stuff like that. But when you was right there in the midst of it, because I was born in 1976, a vintage year, if I say so myself. But
yeah,
when the late 80s, early 80s, I say about 83, 84 is when I really start seeing stuff on, because back in the days they used to have BET, it was black television, black entertainment television, and it was all over the TV, different things like that. But
right.
and at that time, that's when the crack era started in the
Yeah,
early 80s.
it started in like 80, like 82, and 84. Like, it was really bad out like in Cali. That's where it really took off at. Cali, New York, big places like that. And like between 82, 84, it really took off. You know, by us being in Ohio, it's like it came in waves. Like back in like 86, let's say, everybody's running around, they selling little quarter packages. That'd be little $25 things of powder of cocaine, right?
Hmm.
But out west, they already doing Ready Rock.
Yeah, right.
Now, when they buy it, of course, when they buy it, they take the little spoon and then they rock it up and then they make it hard. But I'm just saying, as far as selling it on the streets, where you see that hand to hand combat,
Yeah.
that wasn't going down. It was quarter packages. It evolved, like 87, 88. That's when you see the dealer actually has, the rock cocaine now.
Okay.
So that took off later on. Like what I told you, what happened with me, how the my partner left me with that stuff to go to the club. It was all powder.
Okay. So in the early stages, it was the cocaine, which was the powder form. It
Right.
was selling great. And then when did it turn into the rock form? Like where people.
Form, like, let's say like 88. It's like, it's like with anything else. If a person can go and get something and it's already done, they want that.
Mhm.
They don't have to take the time to deal with the powder and go back and make it up themselves. But it's already there, and they seeing what they getting. It just took off like that. So that's like around 88. It took
88.
off. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Mid 88.
you
It really,
start to see on TV the shows that's coming out, like Colors, and see, like you said, out on the West Coast and the East Coast, they had already experienced that, and then when it trickled that we consider the Midwest, and when it started to trickle down to us in Ohio and stuff, like we last to get everything anyways, but when it started coming around this way, um, you start really hearing that word crackhead.
Right.
So when it became crack cocaine, rock form, they
Right.
start rocking it up, and then it became something. Because I know back in the 70s and the early 80s, like 80, 81 and stuff like that, the powder game was, it was fun. They was entertainers,
Yeah.
musicians. They did that to stay on the stage and to stay up all night was the powder form. But when they turned it into the rock, that was a whole nother thing. It
Yeah.
just took off.
It's like it's like like if you're doing anything, you do something, and then you finally realize, man, there's another way to do this, and that way you're getting the same thing, but it's more intense.
Hmm.
And so as opposed to snorting something, you snort it, it gets to your system, and you feel good, But when you smoke it, it hits you so fast and it gives you
Immediate.
a high that's so intense, you end up chasing that same high until you basically, like you said, a crackhead. You just
Yeah.
chase that same feeling you got that very first time. It's so intense. And that's where they fall off into it because they eventually they chasing that high all over again and they'll never get it. You'll never get that rush you got the very first time you did it. And so it's more intense. Same
Mhm.
effects on the body, same everything. No difference. It's just a more intense high and a different way of you using it.
And the reason that I wanted to do a podcast and to do stories and to get people to understand that never lived the life, never was around that, to be non-judgmental in certain situations, like me, not you per se, but I'm saying like when I moved here from Lima and I moved, it was a high percentage of Caucasian people that lived in the city. And when I lived here, there was no Mexicans, there was no Chinese, there was no nothing but black and white.
Right.
And the people that you seen that was exchange students or whatever like that, um, it was a foreign thing for people here to see that. So I want to inform people that people are not trash or bad because they've been to jail or because they've done something wrong, because we all have a past. But I just want to break it down where people understand that my circumstances made me do certain things. Now, I could have went this way, but I chose to go this way. So these are the attributes that's in the middle of which way I could have went. So I just like to let people know that stop being judgmental because you don't know what I've been through to do what I did. You did.
Exactly. You see, no one's born inherently evil.
Mm,
No one's just born to do, just born in society to be against the law or do bad things. It's always a circumstance. It's always the circumstance in which you're in. Now, like a lot of people, it don't matter who's in office, no matter who's president, no matter what's going on, you always gonna have a ghetto.
right,
You're always gonna have a trailer park. You're
right,
always gonna have whatever it may be, like the people in West Virginia that live in the mountains, that live off the land. You're always gonna have the less fortunate. So when you're less fortunate and you got children, you got responsibilities, you got children, you got things you want to make it away from. You got a situation where you got a dirt floor. Our family lived on a dirt floor before, way
right,
deep south. This is like before I was born, but I know because I've been told by my sisters and brothers.
right.
When you're living like that, sometimes you'd be like, I got to do what I have to do to get away from this. You know, and it's not right for a person that ain't never experienced that to make judgment on that. You should, like you say, it's things like your podcast where they can just sit down and they can listen and kind of like put yourself in these shoes. What would
Right,
you
right.
what would you have done if you wasn't fortunate enough? What would you have done?
I've heard some people say, "What is fast food?" They smart enough to know because they see the commercials or whatever. But I've had a home cooked meal my whole life. We had chefs, we had butlers, we had my parents cooked every single day, stuff like that. So the mind frame can't even take you there because you have never had that experience. You don't know any family members that have that, and you don't know what you would do if you was in that position. So, like I said, a judgment call is made every single day in America on people like. I can't stand to hear people say that they trash. They lawbreakers. They that. If you never had to go through it, you don't know what you would do.
Exactly.
And back in those early times, a way to get the things that we seen on TV, the things that we seen in other people, nice cars, nice homes, was to do illegal activities. And with those illegal activities comes consequences. But at the time you doing it, you say, I'm just trying to make it out.
Yeah,
I'm trying to feed my family. My mom is struggling. I'm finna help my family.
exactly.
Dads ain't in the family. They gone. You know what I'm saying? I got to step up and do something,
Yeah,
no
and
matter if it's bad or not.
it's to a point, and to the people that look down on people like that, they couldn't imagine it. Like you say, they don't come from that, so they can't imagine that. Oh, it's not really that bad. How would you know? You didn't come from it. It's bad.
You
Lived
ever
it.
not ate? You ever not had anything to eat? You
It's
ever had the same clothes on, holes in your shoes,
it's not,
going?
and I'm not saying it to like justifying it. I'm just saying I understand why some people make that wrong decision. I don't
Right.
justify it because it's a lot of people that came from that didn't even touch nothing and got up and got to being great. But the majority, they looking for easier way out, or just looking for a way out. Because back in the days, it's like it was hard to get a job.
Man.
It was even hard if you got a job, it didn't pay anything.
It's like you spinning your wheels, man. You like, okay, I'm being honest. I'm going to work. Yes, you can say go to work. It hard to explain to somebody. Like, I understand, you understand, but to somebody they don't understand. Like, why would you? I would never do that. I could never do that. You don't know what you could do if you haven't been in that position. You see your baby crying. I'm hungry. I ain't got no way to get nothing to eat. And they can say whatever, you can make excuses, but like you said, that line that you said, there's some people that was in that situation and they chose not to go that route. And
Yes.
I reiterate that again. It's the choice that I made because of my concept, my what I seen,
Yeah.
that I chose to do that. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
The situation made you choose that. And it's like, can you imagine having 7 kids at home and you working at the Argon Hotel making $1.85 an hour? I don't care what year it is. You're struggling. It's hard. That's
indeed,
the reason why, that's the reason why my brothers was out there. But I wasn't out there. I didn't have to be out there. They took care of little bruh. You stay back.
right.
Back. You don't be out here. But that's the route they took to help with what was going on. That's
Right.
what my mom made at the Argon Hotel. $1.85, and they would let her bring some food home.
So with that same play in mind, with this game called the game, was it dangerous?
Back then you didn't feel any danger, but it was danger. It was always danger because like when I came in, we out there, we doing our thing in the streets, but that's when our fellow neighbors start coming in.
Mm,
Detroit. Now Detroit, they more advanced. They've been doing this for years.
right.
you know, Certain cities like, let's say like Cleveland, because that's close to New York, and Detroit, they've been on what we've been on, and they've seen things that we haven't seen because we're a close knit community. Everybody know about it. I don't care what side of town you from. You know the people. So we
South
do.
side, south side.
Yeah, you doing your thing. You know who you dealing with.
Right,
These guys come, they don't know nobody, and what they
right,
got guns. They got crews. They riding down on people. So in the late '80s and early '90s, it got dangerous.
right.
It got dangerous because you just not dealing with the guys from Lima, Ohio. You dealing with the people that's coming from Detroit. You dealing with the people that's coming from Chicago. So now
Mm,
this next level thing, and then that's when you finally say, okay, well, I just can't be out here in the streets. I gotta pack. I gotta have
right.
me, a crew. I gotta be ready for the outside elements that's here now. That you
For
didn't have.
those that don't know what you're saying, sorry to interrupt, but when he say pack, he means that what the young folks that got that blicky
Yeah, got
on the hip. You gotta have
yeah, got quit.
that
Yeah,
that my
switch.
fire. It go everywhere I go. You
Yeah,
did because this is a game that there's no reset button on it. If you
exactly,
get caught out here lacking, game over. You
exactly.
did
And you dealing with the outside elements that's coming in, and they own that, and that was their life, and they coming from the same hard struggles that you coming from. And
right.
the thing about it, they migrating from their cities because it's rough in their cities. And if you come to a place like Lima, Ohio, from Detroit, where here it is, you selling something for 50, for $20, but here in Lima, you can get it all for 50. They coming in droves. They
And,
coming in
and
droves. That's how it.
and another thing about that, so let's just per se put me. I'm from Chicago. I'm from Detroit, and I come to this. I'm gonna call this the sticks. It's people rowdy, ready to do stuff anywhere you go. But if I see, I'm like, okay, I've been in the game. I know what this go for. These they don't know nothing. I'm
Exactly.
finna go down here and set up. If you ever heard Ice Cube's, man, my favorite song, what is it? Summer Vacation.
Yeah.
If you ever take out the cuss words, if you don't want to just find the clean version and listen to that song, Summer Vacation, Ice Cube. He let you know we coming from LA and we come over here to these country hicks, man, blow the block down, take over they stuff, whatever. That's how it was. That's what they talking about, taking over blocks and stuff. What you mean by that? We
It's like in the late '80s. That's the reason why Cleveland was so advanced. The guys came directly from California, and they set up
mm,
in Kennedy, a famous project in Cleveland, high rise. Like in New York, they had high rises. That was the only high rise they had in Cleveland, I believe, was King
mm-hmm,
Kennedy back in the day, and they took that over. And they was, it's like people seeing it as a lot like it was love because the guy supplied them with everything.
right,
So
right,
the locals made money the same way in line, but like dudes from Detroit, they're about money. If you want to team up with them, and they'll supply you, you know, and you can make a lot of money. Like I've dealt with them. I got a lot of good friends from Detroit. A lot of good friends. It was always love between me and Detroit guys. But I'm just saying, everybody ain't built for this game, and you go spending them people's money, it's a problem.
right,
They
right.
for keeps. You know, so it's like coming from where they from. Like yeah, people even coming from New York. They was living bad. They were living
Mhm.
bad. So it's like you said, a person that's been fortunate. So much like born with a silver spoon in their mouth. You can't imagine. Just like I can't imagine what it's like not needing something financially. You can never understand what it's like to really need something the way that we did, just the basics, you know.
And that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm doing. This right here, this podcasting and my food business and all the things I'm trying to do is thinking with the other mind that they have already. So I'm like, I want generational wealth for my family. So what can I do that's not illegal, that I have a skill in that I can attain those things so I don't have to be in the streets. I don't have to be doing anything wrong, scamming, fraud, and whatever it is. I can do it the right way and I can attain the American dream. You know what I mean? So, like I said, you got to open your mind, man, open your heart to think about. That's why I like doing this because you get to tell your story in a way where people can understand and we can break it down.
Exactly. It's like, it's so much better now. Like opposed to when my parents, when they was raising us, or, you have to think about it. All they had was jobs.
Mm,
That's all they had was jobs to look to. We're in an age where you got the internet. We're in an age where everything is advanced. There's a lot of ways to like build that generational wealth. So we
mm,
got a upper hand on what our parents went through. There wasn't a lot, like you say, our my parents, my dad from Alabama, my mama from Mississippi. You
hmm.
know, they came up in the time where we were still trying to basically get rights.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Oh, I lost him.
But
I
anyway,
lost. Oh, there he is.
yeah. But it's like, yeah, I got a phone call. I had to cut it out. But
Okay.
yeah, they came up at a point in time where, it's like everybody migrated up here because they had jobs up here.
Right. Right.
They was migrating for jobs, just to be able to work and be able to take care of your people. Because back in the days, Lima was a boom town. You could
Hmm.
quit a black man could quit a job over here and walk over here and get another job like it ain't nothing, paying more money. So that's what they come from. Their way out was a job, but now we have so many opportunities where we don't have to go through the street level thing. You don't have to do that. It's too many different ways. You know.
So, in that same vein about the game, did you get high? I don't know how to ask that question, but I do. Did you get high up in the game?
Oh yeah. I got
Okay.
let's put it this way. Like a lot of people look at you know, let's say high up in the game, it's like no Scarface type thing. No.
Right.
No. But I got to the point in the game where I was dealing with, Colombians.
Hmm.
I got to the point where it was a point where what I wanted, like, let's just say, it's like they have that stuff in droves. They have that stuff, acres and acres of coke. They
Right.
got it. They looking for somebody to sell. It's to the point where I got to the point where they wanted to entrust me with work, but that scared me because
Hmm.
what can go wrong possibly could go wrong. And when it's all said and done, they might smile in your face, but they want their money.
Right.
But we was always fortunate to be able to just buy what we wanted from them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's not like I wasn't even going to wanted to go get to that level. But I was dealing with somebody. If I wanted to be on that level, I could have.
Right.
But I chose, it's like you always choose which route you want to go. I just chose to be right here. I don't want to be where they at. I could have been, but I also, as things went on, what come with it.
Right. That's why I say people don't understand. Like, even though I'm doing wrong, because I use me as an example of being raised right, and then me doing wrong because I did wrong. I did some stuff people don't even know. Yeah, you know me from right here where I live or whatever, but you don't know me. You
Right,
you know what I'm telling you. I
right,
did some stuff and I had protection from God and the prayers of my family that I didn't go like my friends and other family members did. But I was right there in the midst of it. I could have, but the integrity that I had, I was like, yeah, I'm doing wrong. I'm getting a few dollars, but I'm not going to go that way because my personality, I was like you. I could meet somebody. I had a plug. I had a
right.
good plug, but I was making so much money. I got scared. I said, this is coming in too fast. And one thing I told my parents, I said, I will not, I don't care what my brother or brothers and sisters did. I told me, I said, I will not embarrass my family. My dad is a pastor and my mom is a first lady, and they're well known in the community. I said, I will not destroy what they've built because of something that I wanted to do. So I was under the radar. I was doing my thug thizzle, but I just said this ain't me. So I stepped down from the white stuff. I just put it that way, and then I graduated to the green stuff. I
Right,
said this a little bit more my level, and
right,
if I do get in trouble, it ain't gonna be severe.
right,
But that wasn't out of necessity for me. That was out of ego for me. I
right.
was like, I could do it, so I'm doing it. But that's the difference. That's the difference that I'm trying to sorry. That's the difference that I'm trying to get people to understand, that some people had to do it for survival. Some people did it for money. It doesn't matter what you did it for. You did it. But the judgment part is what I don't like.
Right. You can never judge a person. Like I wouldn't even judge. I don't judge people for getting high. Like there's plenty of wealthy people getting high, and it's like I don't judge them because I don't
Right.
know what kind of stress they're going through. I know that the entertainment business they're in, that's a dirty world. And I can't like just because you got money. I don't. You human.
Yeah.
Got desires. You got weaknesses just like I do. So I don't say, oh, he got all that money, he's getting high and he's messing up his life. I try to be empathetic. I try to realize, okay, well, what's going on with him?
Mm,
Because I know no matter what level you on, like you can be the richest person in the world just because you didn't sell drugs, you decide to use them. So it's both two ends of the spectrum.
right.
I'm
Right.
on
Right.
this end of the spectrum where I'm selling it, and then you messing up your life on this end by using it. So I don't judge you, so
So
I
don't
don't
judge
want
me.
you to judge me.
Right.
You
Right. Right.
both got circumstances.
In that same vein, don't leave out of there. But what you talking about? That was another one of my questions. What is the downside of the game?
The worst part of the game that I saw, it's like when you see something in its fledgling stage, like when you're in a city or something like that, like back in Lima, I watched all these people who had so much lose it all because they started getting high.
Mm,
I saw them go from, didn't work 10, 15, maybe 20 years, then built them a nice home, got cars and all that, living a nice life, but they got high and they lost it all.
mm,
Like I'm saying, I'm gaining, so I'm on this end. But on the other end, I'm watching people lose it. I'm watching girls that I done went to high school with that was so fine, just gone, just strung out. I'm seeing this. I'm
man.
start, I'm starting to see the destruction. Is like I always had that in my mind, in my thought process, man. Like this ain't right. I'm like this ain't. I mean, the trade off was good. Was getting the money. I was getting better, but just seeing people suffering like that started bugging me. It started bugging me. You know, you see a person. If you see a person that take them a little drink or whatever, okay, you live with that because that person comes back from that. But it's like they weren't coming back from this. It's like
Mm,
going deeper and deeper, starting to do crazier and crazier things. And that was the big downside to me. Outside of the, in the later stages, the points where you see people getting robbing each other and all that. And it came to a point where, they started kicking in dope boys' doors, holding them up, at gunpoint, robbing their families. People starting to get hurt. That's all the downside. It's always gonna be a downside. Now in the beginning, it's like it's nothing, but when you start in
right.
that cold, it's taken after a while, you just starting, it's like, man, he had everything. He worked all them years at GM and now he has nothing. He's just out there on the street, probably with a grocery cart, walking around picking up stuff and trying to get high. That was a
Man.
downside. That bothered me because, like I say, we're a close knit community, and most people that's out there, that's base heads, you didn't knew them. You knew who they were.
Hmm.
It's like I always tell people, I'm like, look, you judging what you see. I know them from a different time.
Right, right, right.
Know they struggle. I know what they went through, and I know what they used to be.
Right here in the city where I live, it was some prominent basketball players, very intellectual people that fell on hard times, whatever. See, people don't know about drugs, what they really use for. It's an escape. So say like I'm getting molested as a child, or I'm getting berated by my father all the time. You ain't nothing. You ain't never gonna be nothing. This, or I'm being bullied at school. There's so many attributes that go along with that. That this is my escape. Yeah, I don't care about the consequences of what at this moment. I'm ready to get up out of here, man.
It's they,
So I'm gonna do this drugs to free my mind, and everything else,
it's that Calgon take me away.
man, it's an afterthought. Everything else is like, man, so what? Well, I'll deal with that when I come down.
And it's
You dig?
all
And it seemed like it seemed like it takes people 20, 30 years if they decide to get, and then after you then did all that, your body, your organs, your face, everything is just
your
it,
your
man.
health your health is affected.
Right, right.
Health is
Definitely.
it's affected. Like if it ain't touching your looks, look on the inside.
Oh man.
That's
Right,
taking.
right,
If and some people, it affects their looks. Then some people it affects everything.
right.
So it's like it's the escape. Like you say, you trying to escape something. I don't care if you're rich, poor, or whatever. You trying to escape something, and that's why. That's a lot of times. That's why it's done. It's a sad situation, but it's always been that way.
Well, my last question in this segment, because I'm gonna have plenty more. Um, I need you guys to stay tuned because I'm gonna be doing a segment called "The Chronicles of Bucket." So he gonna be telling stories about his life and the whole situation that he went through. But my last question to round this part out is, when did you see the end coming?
Mm. I saw the end coming probably 6 months before it came. It's
Okay.
like it was a bunch of different events. It's like God was talking to me through people.
Hmm.
You know, you can always you like a lot of people always want a sign from God or want to hear from God. You just have to recognize him. And I was recognizing
Right on, right
him.
on.
Yeah, because we had a spot. He's our cousin anyway, but his name was Major. He had a spot, all the old cats used to go over there and drink and used to, play their little cards and stuff. And it was a little hangout spot. And there was one guy, he really didn't care too much for me, but he knew the family and I used to speak to him and he used to shake his head because he used to see all the stuff we was doing. And
Right.
he never talked to me. And I'm walking through the pit one day and he's like, hey. And I'm like, man, he talking to me. I'm like, hey, how you doing, Mr. Such and Such? I won't even mention his name. He's like, it's about time to stop. You tired.
Mm-hmm.
And in hindsight, when you look on that, it'd be like, you realize all that time when God was actually talking to you. And I'm riding around. I remember I'm riding back from our dad just came back from New York and I'm riding on I-75 coming back with the package to Lima. This one guy followed me step for step on I-75 all the way back to Lima, but he kept going when I came in. And then and I'm noticing something ain't right about that. But I get in. Okay, it's out of my mind now.
Hmm.
I know that guy was in that front room when I got raided that morning.
Oh wow.
And I used to see things, and my homies used to be, man, you paranoid. I'm like, no, I'm seeing this time, y'all. it's time. I'm like, "Nah,"
Right.
they not they not seeing it like I'm seeing it, but I was seeing it. I had been seeing it for months, and when it happened, I was like, yeah, I've been seeing it. I was at
Word.
the point. I was at the point at the end where I was, I was tired. I was selling all them cars and stuff. It was old. I had everything. I started getting rid of all that, shaping up, trying to get into something else to, make money, but it was just too late by then.
Too late.
It was too late.
And that's usually what happens. Like we have a conscience, some of us, and that conscience be seared at the moment, and you like, okay, out of sight, out of mind. I'm in it. I'm making bread. I'm taking care of my family. I'm doing all of this. I got nice vehicles. I got jewelry. I got whatever. I can do whatever I want. And then when you get up that high, you be like, man, I think I'm talking about for me and my mind frame. I'm like, this ain't it. This ain't it. Let me start to wind down.
Yeah,
Some people can't wind down. They in the game so high that it's death or jail. You up so high. That's why I said, like you said, you never wanted to be at a certain level. You could have, but your mind frame, your heart, your integrity, you don't want to go that high.
right.
So, like you said, God will give you, it's like bird crumbs to follow out of trouble if you choose to see them. But usually it's too late. And then you have to do what you got to do. And then after you get done doing what you got to do, then you can come out and say, you know, I'm gonna do something different.
Right.
If that's your goal. But a lot of people, they get better in jail and they come out worse,
Yeah.
and it's a revolving door for them.
You have to, I mean, it's jail's an unfortunate situation, but you got to use the time. You got to
Yeah.
use the time. You're like, man, I can't do this again. So you got to
Mm,
use time to think of something better to do. And I'm not talking about better nefarious. I'm talking
right.
about better that's, where you can just walk around, where you can just drive down the street, and the police car don't scare you no more. You know what
Man.
I'm saying? You ain't worried about nobody following you,
Right.
on the other side, the lawman anyway. But
Right.
it's like you said, man, the Almighty he will show you that something's coming your way. He was
Right.
basically showing me something was coming, and eventually he showed me it's gonna be all right.
Right. Right.
That's how it went. But yeah, I had them feelings, and it's kind of hard. And what was hard with me was because we were a crew.
Mm.
You see, it would have been easy for me to just go cold turkey and just, lay low. But when you got a crew and a crew that you done grew up with since day one, you know, this person, nah, we cool. Nah, we cool. Man, you tripping. You paranoid. And that's
We
one thing I've always been about the crew.
and we gonna end on that note with the crew, because we're gonna pick up again. Um, it's a lot more in here that we gonna dig into. But I just appreciate you giving me your time, giving me your story, a little bit of it. It's a lot more to come, but I appreciate all of y'all for watching Wise Words from a Grown Man. This is my podcast, and I'm trying to do something positive. I'm trying to do something different. Like I told y'all, I'm unorthodox. I might be right here one day. I might be in my car. It don't matter. I'm gonna give you what I got to give you. It don't matter where I'm at. So I appreciate y'all watching. Appreciate our guest. We're gonna call him Bucket. That I'm gonna call him Bucket. He call himself Buck, but it is what it is. But until next time, man, I want y'all to stay tuned. Like, share, and subscribe. It don't cost you nothing to push that button, man. It don't cost you nothing.
Please do.
But
Don't cost nothing, and we trying to help people.
right, right.
Trying to help people. And I'm busy, man, but I'm here for it. Like you say, if no matter where I gotta do it at, I'm gonna do it.
Man, as long as the story get out there, don't matter how it's told, you did. But appreciate y'all. And I'm gonna say my stuff. Wise words from a grown man. If you understand, you understand. If you don't, then man, deuces. Two times.